day, settling was really not in the cards for Louie Guy. He was a lot more concerned with exploring and trying to interact with every single person that he saw. What it did do for us, though, was it gave me lots of opportunities to practice interrupting any reactions I saw from him when we were around other people, and even for a couple of dogs that came into our lobby space. Good boy. First of all, if he does have some loose stool later this week, I apologize. For a little while, all he wanted was the freeze-dried chicken that you brought in as snacks. I tried to give him very, very teeny tiny pieces and transitioned him over to kibble just as soon as he was willing to take it for me. But I did have to use some of the higher value treats just to really regain his attention and regain his focus today. That being said, we did get some nice focus indoors, and we are working through gaining focus outside today. And what that looks like is I have set up his leash to only be about 4 feet long. That means that when he is up here with me, he can move back and forth on this bench. If he's on the ground, he really only has about 1.5 feet or 2 feet of length that he can move around freely before he gets pulled up short. And that forces him, well, I don't want to use the word force. Force is not any in my vocabulary really when I'm working with a dog, but it prevents his environment or his potential for distraction from being completely overwhelming for him. Because if he only has about 1.5 feet of space to move around and work with, that's 1.5 feet radius around you for him to explore and investigate. And eventually he's going to get bored enough quickly, like you can see right now. He's finally honed in and is choosing to interact with me and check me out, which is exactly what I need, because there's a lot of big distractions happening in this world right now outside. So I'm going to use our high value treats to demonstrate to you how you can introduce a termination cue if you see Louie becoming hyper focused or super obsessed about a potential distraction. I'm going to use our treats, the high value treat, as an example of a distraction that he might find out here. So I'm going to put some of our freeze-dried chicken over here on the other side of the bench. If he even cares about it. There we go. There's some on the side of the bench right there. Yeah, good boy. Yep, good job. And he gets his marker of yep plus some kibble from me for checking in. Yep, good boy. Yep, good job. Good boy. Yep, and he also gets the marker if he looks away from the freeze-dried food that's over there on the far side of the bench. But if he does kind of become hyper-focused on it, that's a good boy, I'm going to use the words thank you to kind of prompt him to check back in with me, okay? And that's our termination cue. The termination cue of thank you is basically meant to interrupt whatever behavior he's doing right now. Thank you! And get him to shift that behavior, preferably back towards me, but really just away from whatever it is that he's working on for a few different reasons. So a lot of times when a dog becomes hyper-fixated on something, it's out of frustration. I'm going to up the ante a little bit here and add a little bit more of a reward to this far side of the bench here. Try and make it a little more appetizing for him so I can show you really what this looks like. Oh my goodness. So the termination cue is meant to disrupt whatever behavior it is that Louie is practicing, whether it's a hard stare at something, chewing on something that he shouldn't be, or barking at something that you would really rather he not bark at anymore. The key to using the termination cue appropriately and effectively is that you need to have an alternative behavior that is just as motivating for him to do besides what he's working on right now. So, if, say, he was hyper-fixated, come over here, baby, on these kibbles, look right here. And now suddenly he's a little nervous about being on the bench. I'm not quite sure what changed. Yep, good boy. Good job. Thank you. Good boy. Thank you. Very nice, buddy. Yeah. Yeah, good boy. So the termination cue is meant to just disrupt whatever behavior he's performing in the moment, and then you can provide him with an alternative. In that example right there, There was a stranger that came out of the door. Fortunately, she was preoccupied, so she didn't want to say hi to us. That's great. But Louie was very curious about her and probably would have tried to jump down and walk towards her. The termination cue, thank you, in that moment. Thank you. Yeah, good boy. Is meant to disrupt his hyperfixation, his hyperfocus on that strange person or whatever distraction presents itself, to do anything else. Look away from it, check in with you, sniff the ground instead. And if he does stop the behavior that you're trying to interrupt, whether it's staring, barking, pulling, you immediately provide verbal praise and ideally get some hands on him. That seems to be his number one motivator right now in the moment, is some physical affection, having someone touching him. And so using an alternative behavior, getting pets, as a motivator for discontinuing the problem behavior. I'm using a lot of vocabulary here, mainly because he's being so good for me. I was really hoping he'd be more excited about the jackpot I have on the other side of the bench here. But he seems a lot more concerned just with what's going on around us. Oh, there we go, getting a little curious. Good boy. There we go, buddy. So, the termination cue we introduced today is thank you. There we go. Thank you. Yeah, good job, buddy. Come here. And then you can provide him with more pets for discontinuing the pulling or the barking or the reacting towards that distraction. Okay? And ideally, as soon as you get him to discontinue that behavior, you are moving away from whatever the problem behavior. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, good boy. Good job. Get some pets, get some pets, get some scritches. There we go. There we go. Do you want some kibble from me? You want some kibble from me instead? Yeah. Thinking about it? Good boy. Good job. So if we imagine that this little pile of kibble and freeze-dried treats. Thank you. Yeah. No, we're not going to eat that. We're not going to eat that. That's gross. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, good boy. Good job. So if we imagine that the small pile of kibble and freeze-dried chicken over there is the sound of someone walking by the house, or the sound of a dog barking, or the sound of a car door opening, and he has reacted to that. He has become vocal about it. You can use this thank you to interrupt that vocal response and then show him. Again, the key here is you have to show him something else that can be just as motivating and rewarding for him to do. So asking him to come to you and then just continuing to watch television, that's not going to resolve the problem. He's just going to go right back to barking. Asking him to come to you and then moving into the kitchen to get a Kong or a puzzle feeder or something interactive for him to put his attention on instead, that is going to encourage him to cut off his barking a lot more quickly and behave more appropriately in the future when you say thank you again because of the same issue that you're having. Okay? This is a very complex and rather intricate cue. So if you are running into issues with it, if he just doesn't seem to be responding to it at home, let me know. It is still in the introductory phase for him here. Again, he was less concerned with settling for me, which is usually how I like to teach this, and more concerned with saying hello to a whole bunch of people. But you can use it in that scenario too. If he's greeting someone and you're ready to end that greeting, you can use thank you, and if he brings his focus back to you, or even if he stops saying hello and does something else, sniffs the ground or moves away from them, that is another opportunity for you to say, yeah, that's right, let me give you some scritches, or let me give you something else to do as a thank you for stopping the behavior that I wanted you to stop. Okay? You did good for me today, Bubba, even though you were a little, just a little confused and a little spastic this morning. You were just all about running around and being a crazy pup.